This is another video on these little telemetry radios. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about the 915 or the 433. This is the Ardupilot 433. And one of my viewers was little asking questions about this. And I do need to make up a cable for these for my usage on my platform, so it's just a good time for me to do a video on this. So these are 500 milliwatt, half a watt telemetry radios. They take the place of the USB cable that you use for like Ardupilot on the workbench. They've got a UART port right here with a connector, and then they've got a normal USB right here, which is just another UART port, but this is the normal USB that everybody's used to when they're plugging things into their computers or their cell phone in or anything like that. And underneath here we've got some cables. Yep, that's the little 6-pin for PixHawk. Actually, I think this is the 6-pin to PixHawk, but I'm not doing PixHawk. So they also send this little USB cable, so you can hook it to your ground station, which for me is a notebook computer. Could be a cell phone, just all sorts of things. So you can take your normal USB here and hook it to one of these telemetry radios right here. Oops. I'm actually going to do this right now. There we go. Now it's hooked into a USB cable. Put one of the antennas on it. There we go. Now then. Oops, that's the bottom of it, isn't it? Oh, we'll try to make this cosmetically pleasing. There's the top of it. Telemetry radio for 33 megahertz, 500 milliwatts, or 0.5 watts, a half a watt. And there it is, hooked to a USB cable. I'm going to set that aside just for a second, because that's what we hook to our computer, our notebook computer, whatever we're using for a ground station that we're running Mission Planner for Ardupilot or iNav, running it on a computer, tablet, notebook, something like that. So that just goes USB onto whatever you're using for your ground station, and now you can talk to the flight controller while it's in the air. That's what this is all about. So then we look back at the other little radio. We're going to put this on a platform. So this one, we have to have it a little different. We're going to have to use this little cable. We'll plug that into the bottom right here. Let me grab another little flight controller real quick. This is a PixHawk. I just wanted to look real quick and see if this cable in the box, yeah, this is the PixHawk cable. Sure, right on. It would be plugged right in here, where currently on this PixHawk, well, I got too much stuff on the table here now, is plugged into, there you go. This is plugged in there right now. This is plugged into an original, this is an original 3DR Robotics 915 megahertz telemetry radio, purchased about 9 years ago or so. Still in working condition. So yeah, this cable that is a little, what we call Pico has the little release thing on the top, which you push right there. Whereas this side just has the holes. There's no blade like this on the top, and there's no blade right in here. Pins are totally different. So this part goes into a Pixhawk. I'll push it into Telemetry 2 right here. There you go. Oops. Come on. Better look and see which way the holes are closest to the edge. And I always put it in backwards. Sure was. Positive to the right. There you go. There it is, plugged in. So there, that is plugged in, and then this end, of course, would plug into. Boy, this is going to be confusing. Would plug into the telemetry radio. So there's a Pixhawk with a 433 radio on Telemetry 2 and a 915 radio on Telemetry 1. You don't need that. So I was just trying to figure out what these two cables are. So this one is a Pixhawk. And then you're going to push this little blade down, pull it out, and set that in there. This one is the same on each side, Pico blade connector. So to make up my connector I need, I'm going to cut this right in the middle so that I have two equal lengths of wire, keeping them as long as I possibly can for future projects. And that'll be part of my new pigtail, and I'll put the other, because of this connector right here is what I'm trying to keep, I'll put that back in the box for future wiring. So now I've got this, goes right in here. Now the other side, I guess I can set this Pixhawk aside right now, and if we look up at the screen for a second, this is the layout.
This is the layout of
actually
this is my
H743 wing board.
H743 wing board.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
if we
look
and they're
at
not all
the-
this way.
and they're not all this way.
This
doesn't apply for
like the
others,
405 wing and
like the
stuff like
405 wing and stuff like that. But the
H743
743
and the
F765
wing are
wing
very close
very
to the same
very
pin
close
out
to the same pin out on the
flight controllers.
flight controllers.
765.
765. There it is.
So if we look right here on the
So if we look right here on the 765,
what we're talking about is actually the 765 and
the 765 and the
both
743 are both
except
identical, except for
these pins right in
these
here.
pins right in here.
These six.
These six.
The rest of these from right
The rest
here.
of these
all the way
from
down
right
to
here all the
are
way down to
exactly
the right
same.
here are exactly the same.
This is the
This is the 765.
Oops. And
Oops.
this is the 743.
And this is the 743.
And right.
And
through
right
here, they're
through here,
exactly the same.
they're exactly
There's
the
no difference in
same.
them
There's no
whatsoever.
difference in them whatsoever.
We're going to go ahead and use the 743.
We're going to go ahead and use the
but I have a full
743, but I have a full
wiring this up
video
and stuff
on
for the
wiring this up and
765
stuff for the 765 for a 915.
433
915 433
So we'll
doesn't
just go
matter.
back and look at
So we'll just go back and
H743.
look at the
We want to
H743.
put this on UART 7.
We want to put this on UART 7.
You see right here for
You see right here for Ardupilot.
743 wing
The
doesn't
743
run
wing
INAV
doesn't run
yet.
INAV yet. It does run Ardupilot.
So, for
So,
normal telemetry
for
1,
normal
and
telemetry
where they're getting
1
that from is the old Pixhawk days, where this port right here is labeled telemetry 1, and had the telemetry radio hooked to it. And this again is just a radio to take place of when you're plugging the USB cable into the side of this on the ground. This allows you to basically, as if you're plugged in with a big long USB cable while it's flying. That's what this does. So,
UART7,
UART7
Pilot, Telemetry 1, and they say they use a clear to send, request to send protocol on the UART port. There's other UART ports here, UART6, which is just T6 and TX and RX, transmit and receive pins for these UARTs. UART4, transmit and receive. UART2, transmit and receive. UART7, transmit and receive. Well, this UART's just a little specialized up here with these clear to send, request to send pins on this UART, which makes it a little higher level UART than previously. It can do a few more things, use a little different protocol, get these other two wires that are hooked in, active, and working to control some traffic and stuff. I'm not going to get real deep into UART protocol to tell you exactly what's going on here, but it's real simple stuff. If you want to send a signal to another peripheral, you bring up your request to send line. And then you start looking at your clear to send line. When your clear to send line gets a signal on it, that's that other peripheral saying, "Hey, okay, now I'm ready for you at this point." Then you bring up whatever data you want to send on your transmit line that's hooked to that UART's receive, and the data transfer takes place. That's how that works. This is extra requests for sending and acknowledgement when it's clear to send the data. So they're a little more highfalutin than just UART and just transmit and receive only. That's the protocol that these telemetry radios use. They have since before FPV, since before the year 2000, back in the 1995, when these were used as modems to transmit data from one building to another for a whole different purpose than we're using them for. So right down through here, you'll see the top wire. When you plug this wire in, red to the bottom, sorry to say, there's 5 black wires out of it, so you can't do any color coding, except for the red one is on. If we look at the bottom one first, the red one is on its 5-volt supply voltage. Next one up is the UART receive pin, RX. Next one up is UART transmit pin, TX. Next one up is clear to send, CTS. Next one up is request to send, RTS. Next one up is ground. So this one, most outboard here on the top is ground. So supply voltage, ground, receive, transmit, clear to send, request to send. Now, just like when you hook the RX to the TX pin, so this is the voltage. This will be on the first wire of the connector. If we put these side by side, so I'll hold this over here a little bit. I can't set this up. I will hook this ground pin to the most outboard pin right here on the flight controller. I'll hook this voltage pin at the bottom of this 6-pin connector that came with the telemetry radio to the 5-volt pin. Next one in on the flight controller. Right now, if we look and see, the next one in on the flight controller is the receive pin. So I'm going to have to skip this receive pin and go to the third wire up. This one right here has the third wire up. There we go. Come as the third wire up, as transmit out of this radio is going to go on the third pin right here, this RX7 pin, receive. So this transmit goes to receive. The next pin, the fourth pin over on the flight controller, its transmit pin has to go to this pin right here. Wire 2, the one next to the red one, that's receive. They have to be crossed. Can't have transmit going to transmit, receive going to receive, and have any kind of communications going on. You have transmit going to receive on both sides. Now then, this is exactly true for clear to send and request to send. They have to be crossed also. So the next one up, the fourth one, clear to send, will go to the fifth pin on the flight controller, request to send, and the last one up here, number 5, request to send on the telemetry radio will go to the 6th pin right here on the flight controller, clear to send. Now, this is a 6-pin DuPont connector that I can put right across those 6 pins on the flight controller, and I've got black for ground, red for voltage, and then I've got 4 signals right here I'm going to use for that UART7 receive and transmit, and that UART7 clear to send and request to send. So on the other side of this, and these are some connectors I bought on Amazon real quick. This is a pack of, I think it says right now, if I look up here, these are a pack of 50. I don't think they are. I've had them for a while, so. It says 50 pieces. 6-pin female to female, 20 centimeter DuPont cables. They're about, I don't know what. Check it on the board here. They're 7.5 inches long, and it's a 6-pin DuPont connector, factory-made DuPont connector and wires on each end. I think it was really 20 to a pack, in my humble opinion. But they were 12 bucks, 13 bucks. So if they were a pack of 20, that still gives me 40 wires to be using for my prototyping and stuff. So that's a lot. And if it was 50, that gives me 100. Because in the same way with these, sometimes when I'm setting up, I'll just fold them in half and cut them right in the middle, so I can solder what I want to the particular things and use each thing and have 2. In this case, because I think this will be a little longer eventually, I'm just going to take all these pins right here. I've pulled up the little plastic locks on the DuPont connector so that it releases all the pins. I'm just going to pull all these pins right here out of that connector and set that connector aside. Not needed anymore. So I am going to solder to these 6 pins, out of the telemetry radio, so that I get exactly what I want. Ground to ground, voltage to voltage, transmit to receive, and clear to send to request to send. It'll take me a few minutes to solder that up, and I'll come back and we'll proceed. I got that cable soldered up, and it's just like I told you. The pins request to send, that goes to clear to send, receive goes to transmit on both ends. So here's the side for the controller: ground, voltage, receive, transmit, request to send, clear to send, right straight across, right up here on the screen. So that's going to plug in right here on UART7, these top pins right here. Dink. There you go. Yep.
ground voltage, receive, transmit, request to send, clear to send. Right there. That's the whole shooting match. Let's set that aside there for a second. These are transceivers. They both transmit and receive, both directions. They're not just receivers. They're telemetry transceivers. They're not telemetry transmitters in truth. So always have because there's transmitter in here, always have an antenna on it anytime it's turned on, powered up, whatever. Never, never, ever. And I know some of these video transmitters and other transmitters these days are protected. I've heard of people leaving them on for 5 hours with no antenna on and no damage. Well, I know a lot of them don't last 5 seconds, so whatever, you take your chances. So now we'll take our connector here and we'll hook it to the telemetry radio. Click. There we are. We're finished. So right down through here, ground, request to send, clear to send, transmit, receive, and ground voltage is all hooked to exactly where it needs to be hooked to on the Autopilot right here. Ground voltage, receive, transmit, clear to send, request to send. That's it. Now, this is a 743 Wing. So this flight controller, you need to configure it, talk to it, all that crap from a USB port, which is on this little daughter board for the 743 Wing. We hooked that to a USB cable. Now we can go in, and if you look, you'll see there's a light on the transmitter. We're not going to be using this right this second. We'll go up here on the screen. I'm going to load up Mission Planner. The 743 Wing does not work in iNav. So we'll go up here. There it is. COM 15, 115, 200, connect. I'm not sure what firmware I have on this. Yeah, now I am. I have Ardupilot version 4.0.9, the current stable version of Ardupilot. And you can see we're connected. So now if I move the flight controller, you can see up on the left, everything moves around in Mission Planner. Now this Mission Planner is on my computer. I have Mission Planner on my notebook when I go into the flying field. So now then, let's look at what telemetry does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect from Mission Planner. I'm going to disconnect from the USB to the 743 board. I'm going to take the other side of the pair of telemetry radios. I'm going to hook the USB port into my desktop computer that I'm running Mission Planner on, the bench right here. And now, instead of using a USB cable into this USB port right here, I'm going to connect to Mission Planner with telemetry radios. So I'll come up here in the right on Mission Planner, and I can see that that other telemetry radio that I connected USB to my desktop computer is on COM 7. So I'll click COM 7. And these radios communicate 57,600. I click connect again. And you can see now that nothing's happening. So here we are again. All I have here is the H743-Wing, 6 pins connected to 6 pins on the little telemetry radio, and that's all there is. By the way, just for kicks and grins, this is one of the original 3DR 915 telemetry radios. They didn't even come in a case way back years and years ago. That one's so old it's yellowing. So now all we have to do is connect the battery so that we're powered up. There we are, the radio's powered up. The little other radio on my notebook computer's powered up. We'll come into the desktop computer. My desktop computer, not my notebook. We'll find this on COM4 57600. We just click connect. We're done. There's data going back and forth between the desktop computer mission planner and this H743-Wing right here. That's all that's in this battery. There's the whole shooting match. No receiver, no GPS, no nothing, just a telemetry radio and a flight controller. That's it. Now we've read all our data in. If I grab the flight controller and move it around, you can see how in the upper left hand corner of Mission Planner that reflects my movement of the flight controller. That's really all there is to it. So what this is doing, and here's the radio on the desk, what this is doing, these two telemetry radios are replacing the USB cable that you set on the bench and connect into the flight controller. Well, yeah, everybody knows what a USB cable is, and they know how they connect this side into their computer and use Mission Planner, iNav, Q ground control, and they plug this side right in there. Whoops. They plug it into this daughter board on the H743-Wing, but that's how they program it. That's how they get data from it. Well, when it's flying, quad, airplane, whatever, this telemetry radios take the place of the USB cable. And with the big telemetry radios, this is a 1/2 watt, 0.5 watts, 500 milliwatts. These 900 radios I had been using, and you can see how beefy, heavy, and you even have to have a heat sink on them because these are 1 watt. They go about 20 miles. So I expect at least like 10 miles out of these. I'm not going to be going that far, but my desire here is not to lose connection. I want that telemetry connection. Now, just as an aside, this is Mavlink. That's what we're actually doing here, is Mavlink data. And in some of my videos, you saw how I've just started investigating the fact that this connection can be done inside the Crossfire receiver to the handheld OpenTX radio in your hand, and then a Wi-Fi module in that radio can connect you to your ground station, and you don't need these telemetry radios on either side anymore. It's all being done through the RC link. The downside of that is if you lose your RC link, you also lose your telemetry radios. If you're running telemetry radios and RC link separately, if you lose your RC link, if you look up at the screen right now, I can go in here and click on actions on my ground control and click right here for return to launch. I can go in here on my ground station and say, oops, I'm not really at my location. Let me choose, say my location. I'm flying right here over this lake, and I lose my RC link. Well, I just go up here and click right here, right click and say fly to here at 100 feet altitude. And now the ground station has told the airplane without regard. You'll see right here on the screen where my cursor is, it says it's in guided mode right now. It would be flying to this point and start to circle this point. So if my radio in my hand blew up, my RC receiver blew up in my platform, whatever, if I'm connected with telemetry radios, I still got a second lifeline to come over here. I can restart a mission. I can start a mission. I can tell it to go into circle mode. I can tell it to do all sorts of things here. You can almost fly it from the ground station. I don't want to get deep into that. Technically, you can even put a joystick on the ground station, and through these Mavlink telemetry radios, you can fly the airplane with the ground station software with a joystick like this. It is technically possible. Anyway, that's an overview of how to wire up Holly Bros telemetry radios, or any telemetry radios that uses the transmit and receive UART with clear to send and request to send added into the mix. These need that. These can't communicate without those extra 2 wires, clear to send and request to send. So you have to put those in on your flight controller side on the H743-Wing. And again, transmit to receive, receive to transmit, crossed, and clear to send, request to send is also crossed. And the only thing we're doing here is we're using telemetry radios to take the place of that USB cable. And also, while you're in here, if you look up here on the screen, status for all sorts of items. Oops, that's not gonna let me do that, is it? Okay, fine. So you can see here's all these things that are going on each second in a, I'm just over to the D's at this point. I'm clicking through them. You can see my little chiclet here. There are hundreds of items being looked at multiple times a second. I guess that's the end of that. There's hundreds of items being looked at multiple times a second, and these things are transmitted via telemetry down to the ground station about 4 times each second, I think. That's what it used to be. I don't know what it currently is, but 4 times per second, thousands of perimeters inside the platform are sent to the ground station. And frequently, when we have a flyaway, that's their only source of data to reconstruct what went wrong and prevent it in the future. So that's just what else telemetry does for you, in addition to having a second lifeline for controlling the platforms that your RC go out. But I am going to play with not putting these on my platforms, because I can do it through Crossfire RC instead. I can do 2 more links on another UART on Crossfire and have exactly what's going on with these telemetry radios. Or at least that's what my suspicion is right now. All right, so there's telemetry radios on a H743-Wing. With a fresh version of Ardupilot version 4.0.9, the current stable version of Ardupilot. I'll really just plug and play. You got to get the wires wired correctly, and that's the end of that.